Wait, so they dragged a 16-year-old out of the church for reporting assault, then called it misunderstanding. Who decided protecting the church mattered more than finding out whether she was actually telling the truth?
At 16, Amina Cohn believed her church was the safest place in her life. She had grown up there, sang in the youth choir, and trusted Pastor Daniel Mensa like everyone else in the congregation. But everything changed the night she reported one of the church deacons for assault after youth service. Instead of being protected, Amina was publicly humiliated. Standing in front of a packed church hall, trembling and terrified, she watched Pastor Mensa step forward and accuse her of lying. Without asking for evidence or even hearing her full story, he turned the entire congregation against her in seconds. People whispered, stared, and recorded her on their phones while church ushers grabbed her arms and dragged her outside on the pastor's orders. As the church doors closed behind her and worship music resumed inside like nothing had happened, Amina realized the institution she trusted had already chosen reputation over truth. Outside the church gates, the judgment continued. Some members whispered that she must have done something wrong. Others insisted the pastor would never lie. Even her own mother, terrified of the scandal and damage to their family name, begged Amina to apologize instead of fighting the church. Later that night, Amina was summoned into a private meeting with Pastor Mensa, two church elders, and the same deacon she had accused. Rather than investigate the assault, the church leaders pressured her to withdraw her statement for the unity of the church.
Wait, why is she the one being threatened after reporting assault? When did protecting the church become more important than finding out the truth?
When she refused to lie, Pastor Mensa informed her she would face church discipline instead. As she left the room, the deacon quietly warned her that she should have stayed silent. Weeks later, the church publicly announced that Amina had simply misunderstood a harmless situation. Her accusation was rewritten, minimized, and buried. No one defended her. No one corrected the lie. The fallout destroyed her reputation. At school, teachers and classmates began treating her differently. Adults whispered behind her back, labeling her the troubled girl from Pastor Mensa's church. The pain deepened when she later learned the deacon had merely been transferred to another church branch without any real investigation or punishment. That was the moment Amina stopped asking people to believe her. Instead, she focused on rebuilding herself. She studied relentlessly, worked nights to survive, and eventually pursued law. Every rejection, every insult, and every attempt to silence her only strengthened her determination. Though she built a successful life, she never forgot the name Pastor Daniel Mensa or what his church had done to her. 14 years later, Amina Cohn had become a respected state prosecutor. Then one day, Pastor Mensa's name unexpectedly appeared again, this time in an official case file. His daughter had been accused of aggravated assault. When Amina opened the file, she realized the past she had spent years carrying was no longer just a memory. It now had a case number and was entering her courtroom. Her supervisor informed her that Pastor Mensa himself wanted to meet the prosecutor handling the case, hoping to protect his daughter from harsh consequences. Calm and composed, Amina agreed to see him without revealing her identity. When Pastor Mensa entered her office, he initially failed to recognize her. Without the authority of the pulpit or a congregation surrounding him, he appeared older and far less confident. He pleaded for fairness, insisting his daughter was innocent and misunderstood. Then Amina finally spoke. She calmly asked him whether he remembered standing before his church years earlier and calling a 16-year-old girl a liar. At first, he denied knowing what she meant, but the moment court administration confirmed her full name, Prosecutor Amina Cohn, recognition spread across his face. For the first time in years, Pastor Mensa understood exactly who was sitting across from him. The next day, the courtroom was packed. Amina presented the assault case against his daughter with total professionalism, carefully laying out witness statements and medical evidence. But during the proceedings, she introduced something unexpected, an archived complaint from 14 years earlier involving sexual assault allegations inside Pastor Mensa's church. The courtroom fell silent as the judge read the file aloud. It detailed how a 16-year-old girl had accused a church deacon of assault, only for the case to be dismissed due to lack of cooperation from church leadership and pressure from the congregation. Then Amina revealed that the girl in the file was her. Shock spread throughout the courtroom. Even Pastor Mensa's daughter stared at her father in confusion as the truth surfaced publicly for the first time. Pastor Mensa desperately argued that the old complaint had nothing to do with his daughter's case, accusing Amina of reopening ancient history out of revenge. But Amina explained calmly that the issue was not revenge, it was credibility. She argued that the same man who once publicly destroyed a teenage girl's reputation to protect his institution was now asking the court to trust his judgment completely regarding his daughter's innocence. The archived complaint demonstrated a pattern of institutional suppression, manipulation, and prioritizing reputation over truth. When Pastor Mensa finally claimed he had only been trying to protect the church all those years ago, Amina immediately corrected him. He had not protected the truth. He had protected the church's image. The judge ultimately ruled that the historical complaint would remain relevant to evaluating credibility and potential systemic interference connected to the current case. As the courtroom absorbed the weight of the revelations, Pastor Mensa's authority completely collapsed. His daughter, shaken and confused, slowly realized her father had spent years hiding his role in silencing a victim. During a court recess, Pastor Mensa quietly begged Amina not to punish his daughter for the past. For the first time, Amina showed emotion, not anger, but finality. She reminded him that his daughter was not responsible for what happened 14 years earlier. But he was. In that moment, Pastor Mensa finally understood the real consequences of his actions. The trial was no longer just about his daughter's assault case. It was about the truth he buried, the victim he publicly destroyed, and the years he spent refusing to face what he had done. As court officers cleared the room and his daughter was escorted away in tears, Pastor Mensa stood alone in the center of the courtroom. No longer a powerful spiritual leader, just a man finally forced to confront the damage caused by his silence. Amina gathered her files and walked away without looking back, because after 14 years, the truth had finally been spoken openly. And this time, no one was going to bury it again.
Makes you wonder how many people were caught liars simply because the wrong person had something bigger to protect, and how often everyone else just accepted the story they were given.